here session number 5 on day 1 of 1 on hearing stream 5, dealing with overlays part 1, sites of significance and areas of significance to Maori, notable trees and historic heritage. And this is the opportunity for the officers represented by Mr. Wesley to take us through the questions that we have asked during the course of the hearing and just check that we haven't missed anything and an opportunity to add anything. Mr. Wesley, we're in your hands. You've centred those questions on the board.
So first matter relates to the wording of policy 6 and specifically how the title uses the word avoid, and then how that relates to the content and direction of the specific policy and whether they're aligned. So to basically relook at the wording of that title and the policy itself.
Yes, because the wording of the policy embodies a hierarchy.
Correct.
Whereas the title indicates a single approach.
Outcome. Yep.
Outcome.
Okay. Next question is what's meant by the term practical and greatest extent practical, which is used a number of times in the different policies.
Yep.
So again, what does that mean, and is there guidance in case law?
Yeah, and particularly distinguishing that term from the term possible.
So next one, for sites and areas of significance to Māori not identified in the proposed district plan, consider the risk of acting or not acting due to insufficient information, and whether other mechanisms provide for protection of these sites.
Yes.
And for example, the Archaeological Authority requirements for the Heritage and Whiritonga Act. That's the Section 32 evaluation.
Mood lighting on.
Next one, provide a summary of higher order, being national and regional policy direction on identifying and protecting sites of Māori. So,
yes, yes, particularly the regional companion policies that I refer to them. So policies 21 and 22 are the companion policies for heritage. There must be similar ones for sites.
maybe we'll present that to you. And then the wording of Rule 8 to provide more clarity on what is meant by existing RMA legal instruments.
Rule 7.
Sorry, Rule 7. And then, for example, would replacing such as with limited to provide more certainty, as by Mr. Anderson
this
afternoon. And also consider whether all instruments are included in the rule, and liaise with Mr. Anderson.
It only struck me belatedly that he wasn't opposed to the intent, it was just the delivery. It wasn't, yeah.
Get the wording right.
Yep.
Then number 6, consider whether it is appropriate to add a specific clause on managing the adverse effects from the development of the national grid in 6 to give effect to policy 8 in the national policy statement.
Yes, this is the carve out issue.
I did write that in the first draft.
Yes.
Question?
Yes. Now that's something to consider in a wider context too, isn't it?
Correct.
Not just in relation to this topic.
So that might come up on Monday, Tuesday.
Yes. Yes.
And then number 7, consider whether it is appropriate to add reference to Hapu and Whānau after all references to Rangatani o Wairarapa and Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa or Tangata Whenua in the SASM chapter throughout the proposed plan. So that's the relief sought by the Māori trustee as an alternative to Māori landowners.
Yes.
So I could put liaise with the Māori trustee.
Yes. Yes, it seemed to struck me that whilst that wasn't their preferred relief, they would accept it if it was consistently applied throughout the plan. And you said you need to consider that further. Yes.
So that's all the questions on the sites and areas of significance to Māori. Just
on the policy, the national grid matter, there's potential liaison with the Transpower planner. Yeah. And I guess the same applies to the telco one too, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
So there was a question raised in the last submission that said, we haven't had time to adequately consult within our organisation. is it worthwhile actually just doing a timeline of when things were sent, and so actually saying, well, you know, how much time do you require? Is 2 years enough? Seems to me that it may well be that there's an excuse rather than a reality.
I guess we can break that up into pre-draft, draft and notified.
Down here for something similar on again,
Date to the district, yeah,
on heritage. So
yes,
use that same wording.
yes.
Are we going to investigate the area that the Māori trustee talked about resourcing?
Can do. What would the investigation be, Joe?
Oh, I don't know. I think, because I was watching an expression on their face when they said something about councils should consider resourcing whānau, some of their lands and that. And I thought, and I think I said, I kind of got a bit of a problem with that, but anyway, I was going to wait to see what Hamish was going to come out.
Well, when we can probably deal with it in deliberations,
Okay.
I think. So we've got scope to include the term or not include it.
So would you like,
As a definition of it.
Oh,
would you like a specific question response on it?
yes.
I think there should be,
Or the question, how would the question go, do you think, Craig?
probably just like that, to be honest. No,
I'm not sure because you're now trying to determine whether councils should provide financial support.
The funding question.
And that's well outside your.
What about another question? Some alternative wording, something along the lines, would the current wording preclude financial support being provided or financial resourcing being provided?
because the word would indicate a possibility.
Support,
Yeah.
Yeah.
without being explicit as to the nature of that support.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to see is to write it out nicely. Yes, actually.
And then where do we stop?
Yeah, well,
Well, that's something for us to decide.
Yeah.
But this might help us make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea.
Are all the questions for sites and areas of significance? Okay. Heritage. So provide a summary of the number of buildings in the heritage schedule and proposed plan. Provide a breakdown by districts.
So the question I put earlier,
Adams.
yes,
Oh, actually, that's a factual question you wanted confirmation on. And then number 2, how many buildings and structures listed in the heritage schedule protect the interior? You confirm that the policies and rules only protect the interior where the interior is specifically listed in the heritage schedule.
yes, yes,
So you answered that question
we did.
already, but I think for the record, we'll include it.
Yes.
3, consider the listing in the heritage schedule of the former Greytown Hospital, having heard evidence presented. Discuss what guidance is provided by the RMA and policy direction for weighing up the costs to landowners and the benefits and costs in the loss of heritage and to the community if the building is listed or not listed, and include an assessment on giving effect to policies 20 and 20 or 21 and 22 of the wind.
could you add to that a carve-out question of consideration of the decision and whether it would have any effects on others if we did it early? Obviously, he's in the middle of under negotiated sale, so that might be a separate question.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah.
Or would we be then setting precedents?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It's a standalone issue, but would it have an effect on other issues? On other things?
Just gathering information.
Or has there been presidents before this that we would know of any? No?
I don't know.
Other councils, maybe?
Just going back to question 3, Hamish, there was an invitation for Ms Adams and Mr Hooper to attempt to come to some consensus initially,
Yeah.
and then if they couldn't, then to both furnish their own section 32 assessment. Thank you. 5.
Consider options for providing more certainty for a concept and term of heritage curtilage and expert conferencing on between the council officer and Heritage New Zealand planner on that matter.
Yes.
I've worded that fairly open in terms of options.
Yeah.
Versus
All the other. Yeah.
that the two planners can.
As long as they cover off each of those alternatives. Which also included no policy and no rules. Yeah.
Yep. So not having heritage curtilage required.
Yes.
Number 6, provide a summary of the heritage precinct, including its key characteristics and values. Also include the following details: whether the heritage precinct is new, existing, or extended in the proposed district plan compared to the operative district plan, the number of properties in each precinct, and whether the precinct contains individually listed buildings in the heritage schedule, and if so, provide a list of the scheduled building sites and items for each precinct.
Yeah, purely factual.
Consider the activity status for demolition of non-scheduled buildings in heritage precincts, and where it should be restricted discretionary under Heritage Rule 10.
Oh,
So that's the
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
don't have the information around
yes.
non-scheduled buildings.
Yeah, that's a question of discretionary or restricted discretionary.
It's default.
And last matter, provide a table listing the responses from property owners from engagement on listing a building site or item, and categorise the responses based on whether a response was received, and if so, whether they supported or opposed the listing. Including this table, the responses received each stage of the plan review, being prior to the release of the draft plan, the draft plan, and then
A little bit of work there, Hamish, but it's factual.
correct.
Yeah. Now, there's probably a 9th question, I think, relating to the Greytown Heritage.
Trust.
Yeah. Do either of you want to frame it?
I'm thinking how to frame it.
It's similar to, it's probably similar to question 8, isn't it?
Yeah, I think question 8 will kind of capture it, but it probably needs to be cross-referenced. Again, this is a hell of a lot of work. There was 62 submissions they put in.
Of the Heritage Trust.
Yeah.
Trust, and possibly how they interlink.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm really asking a question or.
It's possibly a separate question.
Possibly separate but similar. And
Basically trying to make sure
the
that
Greytown Heritage Trusts.
every property that they initially fingered
Yes.
has been identified and contacted, and so that, because the concern is, of course, that they didn't go through, well, one of the allegations there is that they didn't go through their own trust and notify the trust members. So what was the basis on which they made their submissions, and have property slip through the cracks accordingly.
Yeah. And that's
Validity of their survey,
Yeah.
basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
also if it came through a nomination from the Heritage Trust, was there engagement by council with the landowners to find out what the landowner, whether they supported or opposed the listing?
Yeah.
So
Is that draft plan stage? That notified?
it's 2. So
Yes.
draft district plan stage, nominations. So actually, good at three steps. the first step was prior to release of the draft plan. And Mr. Kernahan had direct liaison with the trust, as he described this morning. He went and met with the trust along with Carterton Historical Society. So he obtained a list from them at that point. Secondly, when the draft plan was released, we sought the nomination of additional heritage properties, and the Greytown Heritage Trust provided additional lists at that point in time. And then thirdly, through their submission on the proposed plan, they've sought additional sites.
Probably the latter two rather than the first one.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious there's a little bit of work there though. We want to know what the properties are, whether there were, I guess at both the draft and the notified stage, whether there was any converse submission or feedback from the landowners. It should be easy enough for the further submission stage. Any response from landowners, both by feedback on the draft or ask further submissions in opposition at the notified. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, that's a key, that last part there, yeah.
Yeah, the feedback on the draft will be, it won't be in response to someone else's feedback. It'll just be, well, probably not a lot to see there. It's really going to be the further submissions.
So there have been submissions that have said they objected to the process and said it should be a positive affirmative. So obviously we can consider that in deliberations, whether that actually, we should apply that across the board.
Yes.
So we'll see if we can find a way to sort of combine
Into a table.
8 and 9 into a single table. And I think we can highlight whether it came about submission or a nomination from the Heritage Trust, and if and when Mr. Kernahan's assessment, and then what engagement there was by whom with the landowners in their response.
Yes. And on that last question, last sentence, Ms. Adams has adopted Mr. Kernahan's recommendations.
Yes.
Without exception. Yeah. Okay.
So we could highlight if there is an exception.
Yes, if there's any exception.
Whatever the reason was.
So Appendix 5.2 is his assessment and recommendations as well on submissions. So it's additions or deletions in the submission points. So
We can just consolidate that into a table.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
yeah.
Okay, and then lucky last one question on outdoor trees.
Yes.
The trim,
This came up.
trim versus prune.
It's actually no on that. It was
Coming on pruning.
so using pruning
And
or trimming, like and or. So
Yeah.
at the moment,
he's got
The interchange.
Yeah,
so pruning. So it's use the term pruning or trimming across the chapter, because in some instances it's just been retained as pruning, and others it says pruning or trimming. So just for consistency, for them all to say pruning or trimming.
One seems to be a want of fear.
Yeah.
To me, yeah.
question should be both.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. So it should be. So I guess what I'm saying.
board, great day, but
Yeah,
That's right.
guys, one at a time. I'm talking.
I'm talking to him.
So, yeah, but it's being recorded and it makes it really difficult for people to hear. So it's actually having both of them, so pruning or trimming throughout the chapter consistently. Yeah.
Anything else?
It's been a long day.
Okay.
Can I raise,
Yeah, try.
well, maybe I should take it up with you personally, but there's a bit of an elephant in the room. I was shared with you.
Well, hang on, why don't we just park that for the time being? Yes.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
We'll come back to that. But being nothing else, I hereby declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.